Welcome to the Alan Berry Reports TV show. I'm Alan Berry Laboucan. I'm the editor of the Alan Berry Reports and the host of this show. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is our 10th show now, and I'm going to change things up a little bit. In the previous shows, we talked a lot about why we follow commodities, what are the key things that we look for in commodities, what they sort of tell us, and about the economy, the global economy, the American economy. And the last couple shows, we were more specifically talking about resource stocks, why we follow resource stocks, and then what we look for in resource stocks. And what I'm going to do differently this time around is I'm going to use a company, one of the companies from the reports, our print reports, one of the featured companies in the reports, and use them as an example of what we learned from a company such as the one we're going to talk about. And this is something that we're going to do a lot more in future shows. The company I'm referring to is a company called Osisko Mining. And Osisko is a company that we started featuring in our reports in the third quarter of 2008. Now, as everybody knows, during this time, this was when the American economy hit the brakes and took the whole global economy down with it. And at that time, it was probably the time when I added the most companies to my report in the 5 years that we've been having the Alan Berry reports on commodities and resource stocks. And the reason that I was so anxious to get more companies in the report at that time was I felt that the market had gone into way beyond any kind of reality. There was so much fear out there that everything was getting pushed down, and it was creating some wonderful opportunities. Now, why I was able to be confident to add a bunch of companies at that time wasn't just because the stocks had been battered down, but I also felt that ultimately the fundamentals of supply and demand for commodities was still in very strong shape. I knew that there was going to be a few months, maybe 6 months, of some issues on the demand side, but at the end of the day, the supply was still long-term weak, and I felt it was going to stay that way. And with all the stimulus that was being planned, that the demand would come back. So it was at that time that I probably I think added about 40% of the companies that are in the report during that third quarter of 2008 and first quarter 2009. So Osisko was one of the companies that was added during that period. And I had been watching Osisko for some time. What they had been doing, their key project, the Malartic project out in Quebec, I had been following it for a few years. Now, why I had been following it is, one, Quebec is a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. There is an annual report that's done by the Fraser Institute where they go out and they assess all the various different mining jurisdictions throughout the world, and Quebec is always in the top 1 or 2 of that survey, and the government's very pro-mining, and they realize that a lot of their economic health comes from mining, and so they try to promote mining in the province. And so, I mean, just because they're a mining-friendly province doesn't really mean anything unless you've got something in the ground. And in the case of Osisko, I had been watching for a couple years where they were hitting thick intersections of lower grade kind of grades, but it was near surface, and this is a classic sort of a open pit type target. And so, well, I was watching it, the stock had gone up quite a bit, and I wasn't, I try to avoid the chasing things, so I sat and watched it, and then when the market came down the way it did in the third quarter 2008, the stock got beaten down quite dramatically. It even got beat down to just below $3 when I put it in the report. Now it's up a little over $9, so it's done very well. But that wasn't really the reason that wanted to talk about the company. More, it's what you can learn from a company like this. Now, a couple things that I learned was, you know, when you can look at things fundamentally, it makes it so that you're able to take advantage of when the market gets ridiculously bullish or ridiculously bearish. And so I was confident about the fundamentals going forward, and that's why I was able to, you know, put them in the report when I did. Now, since then, since I've had them in the report, it's been a little over a year now, they've done some wonderful things. They were able to fully fund the development of a mine. Sorry, I tracked back a little bit there. They continued to drill. They continued to expand the size of the deposit. By doing dense drilling, they were able to establish that they had a multi-million ounce gold deposit there, and they kept on doing drilling, and they continue to keep on doing drilling. At the same time, they were preparing to start the development. Now, what's interesting about this project, it's right at the town of Malartic, and they had to actually move some of the town in order to make room for the mining operations. Now, they got the support of the local community. They did a bunch of transactions where they bought property, they moved people, they moved schools. They did a lot of really good things that, again, had the support of the local community. And also during the period that been following them in the report, they were able to secure all the funding for the development of the mine. They continued to grow the deposit, and it looks like it's still open to continue to grow. And now they are moving ahead with the work towards developing a mine at the Malartic project. And so it's really been a really good performer, and you know, when I say performer, often it's not just the stock that's the performer. It's when the company performs, then you usually get that close relationship of the stock performing as well. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes companies can be doing a lot of good things, and it's not recognized in the stock. In fact, that's often the kind of companies we're looking for to add to our report. But in this case, the company has executed, and the shareholders have been rewarded, and it's been a wonderful pick in our reports. And so we're continuing. But going forward, sometimes I look at things from, well, is this company a takeover target? A lot of times I'm trying to find the companies that I think could be takeover targets in the future. And in the case of Osisko, I think that they're going to go a different route. I think that what they're going to do is they're going to become a significant middle-tier mining company that has the potential to use the production from their early mining operations to help propel them to be a much bigger company, a much bigger miner in the future. A lot of major mining companies got their starts as juniors that then became miners and are well-known names now. And so that's where I am looking for Osisko to go in the future. That's a wrap on today's commentary. Before closing, I'd like to stress that we're not making buying or selling recommendations. The show is for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your own research and consult with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. We're always trying to grow the audience. If you'd like to help us, just look for the share buttons, and it'll help you to send out a Facebook or a Twitter message or an email to your friends that follow the markets, and it'll help direct them to where they can find this video. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch the show. We're well aware that everybody is busy these days, and we strive to produce a show that brings you high quality information and saves you time. As always, we hope you can join us for future shows or visit us on our website at alanberryreports.com. Have a great day.